No one in West Point expected that Benedict Arnold would turn the cause he once championed into a bargain with the enemy. Yet by the late summer of 1780, a drama of grievance, secrecy, and money was unfolding along the Hudson River that would come to define treason in American memory. To understand the conspiracy, you must first understand West Point. Perched on a jagged bend of the Hudson, its batteries and forts controlled the river artery that linked New England to the rest of the rebellion. If it fell, the colonies risked being severed. Command of West Point was thus a crown jewel of the continental defenses, and it was entrusted to one of America's most capable, if increasingly bitter, generals. Benedict Arnold had been a hero. He had distinguished himself at Saratoga in 1777 and bled for the patriot cause. But wounds, political slights, financial losses, and a growing sense of being underappreciated gnawed at him. In 1779, a court of inquiry examined charges he'd incurred over the handling of supplies. Though he retained rank, the stain of controversy lingered. In the same year, he married Margaret "Peggy" Shippen, a young Philadelphian from a Loyalist family, and through her, he renewed contact with British officers and sympathizers. All these pressures, wounded pride, debt, and intimate ties to those sympathetic to Britain, created fertile ground for betrayal. The conspiracy that followed was not a sudden act of madness but a planned exchange. Arnold entered into secret negotiations with British command, principally with Sir Henry Clinton in New York. Clinton offered Arnold money and a commission in the British Army in return for handing over West Point. To convey messages and coordinate the handover, Arnold relied on a British intelligence officer, Major John André. André was urbane, admired by both sides. He became the indispensable go-between, bearing maps, written plans, and the promise of British reinforcement. In late August and September of 1780, the correspondence escalated. Arnold arranged to weaken West Point's defenses. He would move or disable artillery and facilitate the approach of British forces. André, crossing the lines in civilian dress, met Arnold to finalize arrangements. But intelligence work in war is a hazard, and on September 23, 1780, André was intercepted, far from New York, by three American militiamen, John Paulding, Isaac Van Wart, and David Williams, while carrying papers hidden in his boot. Those documents exposed the plot. Sketches of West Point's defenses and instructions, showing how the British could take the fortress. Once, André's capture made the conspiracy undeniable. Arnold's plot collapsed. Learning that his scheme had been revealed, Arnold boarded a small boat and, with a pistol in hand, slipped down the Hudson to the waiting British sloop Vulture and escaped to New York. André, however, was tried as a spy by the Continental Army. Despite requests for clemency from British officers and sympathetic Americans, he was convicted and hanged on October 2, 1780. His execution was bitterly controversial, but it galvanized patriot outrage and preserved the field of war that Arnold had sought to give away. The consequences were permanent. Benedict Arnold's name became synonymous with treachery. He received money and a commission in the British Army, but never regained respect. He led raids against his former countrymen and died in London in 1801, a figure of infamy. Peggy Shippen's role remains debated by historians. She communicated with Loyalists and may have facilitated contact, but the depth of her complicity is still parsed in letters and petitions. More than a spy story, the West Point conspiracy lays bare the human currents that can undermine causes. Wounded pride, financial desperation, divided loyalties, and the seductive promise of recompense. In a war forged by idealism and necessity, the Arnold-André affair was a reminder that victory and betrayal often walk the same riverbanks. West Point did not fall that autumn, but the scandal reshaped the revolution's moral landscape and left an indelible cautionary tale about how fragile trust can be in the crucible of war.